and then start to deal with these issues. I've listed some issues here that were taken from your teaching philosophy. So these issues, be careful of these issues, because you will need them when you write your major assignment 1. So major assignment 1, when you have these issues that emerge from your teaching philosophy, make sure that you correct them accordingly. You follow the rules of this academic work, and then from there, you then have to make sure that in your next major assignment 1, you don't repeat the same thing. But before then I continue with this, with the list that I have here, let me ask you, is there anything that you think we can all define in the same way in this world? So in other words, is there anything that you think we can all love it in the way you love it? Yes, Ngobi? Is there anything that you think is possible that we can all love it in the same way that you love it?
Sorry.
Is there anything like that?
No, I just joined. I think I don't even know what it's about.
Okay, Eunice Mkwena?
Yes, Prof. Well, apart from money, I don't think there's anything that we will all like the same way, apart from money.
but we all like money. We all love money.
Oh, that is obvious.
Then, so what is the definition of money to you?
Yes.
You see, we need to start there in defining what is money. Why other people call it inkece? Why don't they call the same thing money? And why other people say health? Why are they using different concepts to refer to it if it is defined in a way that everyone in this world is defining it like that? I thought that you were going to indicate that maybe what we all need in this world, it's water. But when you go to the world of other species, you find that water is also not important. Therefore, they don't define it in the way we define. Then what does that suggest then? That we don't have a specific thing in this world that we can define in the same way, but what we define as good money, good water, for others, they may define it in a way that discourages us to continue with that definition that we have. Therefore, when we then deal with academic work, we must remember that whatever we have in this world is just imaginary. So if it is imaginary, it means that it's live in your real world, in your own world. But don't expect that everyone will then perceive that thing the way you perceive. For example, if you were to say you have a stick that you use to achieve all your achievement. If you want to achieve something, you have a stick that you use. You use that stick because it's just your superstition. Therefore, if we have to test it to say, okay, because you are saying this stick can change anything that the universe is giving to us. Therefore, can you then use this stick to help us to win national lottery? You see, now that's a nice test to say, okay, if you can prove that this stick of yours, you worship the stick so that you will achieve everything you want to achieve. We'll just ask you a small test to say, use this stick to help us to win the national lottery. So each time we want to win the national lottery, please use the stick to see that. But what will happen then? The moment we ask you to do that, you'll run away because you know it's a superstition, but you don't want people to know that it's a superstition because you want to use it to scare them in order to control them. Maybe if that lottery is not happening, you can test the same person to say, okay, you have failed to help us to win the national lottery. Go to just one hospital next to your home and then heal all the patients in that hospital so that the resources that are used by that hospital are used for something else. Then you'll see the person will run away because all what we have, it's our belief. Most of them are just superstition, which may not help in a real situation when you go for testing them. In such a way that if you remember well, then when you were born, you had a tiny body. So now you had to graduate from that tiny body to another body, which means the life of the first body stopped, and then you had another body, Today, you cannot even feel that you were 1 year old now that you have created this big institution. So your internal intelligence has already produced this body of yours, which is now cannot be compared with what you had when you were born. That is after birth. Therefore, it means there's this internal intelligence that is inside of you, which convert food into this big institution, which we call our bodies. Although we don't know where to find that intelligence, but we believe that is within the subconscious mind, unconscious mind, and the conscious mind. As a result, then, in order for us to increase our happiness, we need to be aware of that internal intelligence. And the internal intelligence has so much to offer us. It has offered us this big body. You can see your body is healthy, it's everything. It gave you that. Therefore, when you use it, then use it in such a way that you express what you need in order to be happy all the time. Try not to express what you don't like or what you don't want or what it is. So that this intelligence of yours will have enough energy to continue to shape you, to balance you, to make you happy. So if you were that happy at the age of 10 years, we are expecting you now to say at the age of 20, you are more happier than before. At the age of 35, we call people there, they are senior, that's senior one. Therefore, there you need to check your belief system in such a way that you clean what is identified as superstition, so that your happiness will continue to be here, because superstition bring us back. They make us believe that the stick can work, yet it cannot work. As a result of that, we suffer the consequences, because that process is called blowback, when the nature is working against you, because you are working against it using a specific superstition. So in order to live with that happiness, all what you need to do, starting from your teaching philosophy, you now start to express what you need. What you need in order to make sure that your intelligence is used in the right direction. So much that with the list that I have here is what I picked up from your teaching philosophy, which you need to correct. So I did not identify the names of those who had these issues, but you will know if you have one of these or more, and then you correct it when you receive your teaching philosophy today. Please correct it and make sure that you don't repeat the same mistake when you write your major assignment 1, because major assignment 1, it's 40%. Therefore, you need the whole 40%. But for the 20%, most of those who submitted did almost well. Therefore, I'm impressed with what most of you have generated so far, but there's still a room for improvement when you write your next assignment, which is your major assignment 1. So let's start with the issues then. So the first thing is that express what you need so that the world will know what you need. Don't touch what you don't need, because when you touch that, you will waste your energy now arguing with the fans of what you are indicating as negative to you. So nothing is negative because there are people who believe in what you think is negative. So I'll give you an example. There are teachers who are strongly believers of performance curriculum, to say that they are getting, their learners are getting A's because they use a performance curriculum, where they use principles of performance curriculum. And on the other hand, there are teachers who are strongly believers of competence-based curriculum, where they will say we are talking about learner-centeredness. Those for performance will say they are talking about content-based or content-centered or teacher-centered. So these two giants have their own fans. So if you decide to take a performance curriculum as your driving principle of your philosophy, don't criticize competence-based curriculum. Don't even mention it when you write. Write the strength of what you have. Then you are not going to have the space where you have energy that will be wasted trying to defend yourself against the fans of performance curriculum or competence-based curriculum. So that's what will happen here. And what is happening with what you don't know, what you don't need, is that you spend less time reading about it. Therefore, you just pick up what is negative about it and then express yourself using that, without being aware that there are other people out there, because that thing is existing because there are people who use it, who like it. Therefore, don't touch what is not yours. Okay, I think there, am I with you there? Are you still with me there? Are you still?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, let me continue with point number 1 then. So when I was reading then other teaching philosophy, I came across a situation where authors downloaded the cover page from UKZN, the cover page that was created for first-year undergraduate students, but they've downloaded it and used it as if it is theirs. So that will constitute plagiarism for honor students, because for honor students, they don't need templates since they've gone through 4 years of their degree. Now they should be able to design as university students. So if you have to write your essay or your whatever submission, design your own page, your own cover page with your contact details nicely indicated there, but it should be your own design. Remember, universities are training students to become designers. So if you have done your degree, you completed your degree, we expect you to be a designer. But if you were to go to University of Technology, they were going to teach you how to assemble something that was designed by university students. If you were to go to TVET College, they're going to help you to teach you to understand how to fix something that was designed by university students, assembled by University of Technology students, and then they are there to fix it. So for university students, we don't expect them to ask for template to say, Miss So-and-so, can you give me a template for example, for a lesson plan? A lesson plan should come from their philosophy. It should be designed according to their philosophy. So that's why if you have a professional mechanical engineer who has completed his BSc at UKZN, you don't expect that person to reproduce a car that was designed by other people. But what we expect is that this person will produce a new design which will be taken to those who are coming from University of Technology to assemble it and interpret that drawing according to what he was according to what intended. Then you have it nice like that. And then after that, when the car is out of the company cars, it gets damaged, then we expect panel beaters from TVET colleges to panel beat those. So that's how the world is happening. So now cover pages that were designed by UKZN are really designed for undergraduate students, especially the first years, because they are still learning how to design. But the honor students using another design, that's plagiarism. So don't use that design that has been designed by other people, but design yours. I want to see yours with your info, your contact details, everything, even your picture, if you want to, you can put, but show us that you now you are starting to understand your identity through your teaching philosophy. Then through your teaching philosophy, you have principles that guide you to say, I don't take things from other people, but when I use those from other people, I acknowledge their work and develop mine around what they've designed. That's how we do this. Okay, so point one, is it clear to all of us? Because I don't want to see it in the next assignment. If I see it in the next assignment, I'll deduct 10 marks for that. Yes, 10 marks for that. Plagiarism. Plagiarism. Students need to be penalized, to be punished for plagiarizing. So remember that. Okay. Number two, I've observed that others, when they type in the document, they don't use justify, but they use left justify. So where do you find this justify function? Justify function is on top here. Look at the screen there. When you see at the top there, before you type anything, you go there. But if you have typed already, highlight what we have typed and then use justify function so that your document will be straight on the right and straight on the left. Both sides will be straight. The margin will be straight. But if you type while your document is there, left justify or left align, which means your right-hand side will be jagged. So that I've seen quite a number of those philosophies that were jagged on the right. So make sure you correct it for your major assignment. You don't have that. In terms of size and the spaces in your writing, Normally we use size 12, but for headings, you can change to 14, but normally even headings, sometimes we use size 12. And then in terms of font, the normal one is used to be Times New Roman or Arial. Arial font or Times New Roman. Those are common, are the most popular fonts that are used. In terms of leaving space between the sentences, use 1.5 line spaces. Where do you get all this? You get the line spacing under this option called paragraphs. You choose paragraphs, you will then see line spacing there. Then you space according to 1.5 as the normal academic line spacing that is being used. So, and then when you move to the next part, number 4. Number 4, avoid too long sentences. Your sentence should be a maximum of 3 lines. You should not exceed 3 lines when you have a space. I mean your sentences. And again, you cannot have a paragraph that is less than 3 lines. So a paragraph, a normal paragraph, it's 3 lines to 8 lines. So when you write, be aware of those. But sentences should be a maximum of 3 lines. You should not exceed 3 lines if you are making one sentence. Okay, so far then, have you taken notes on that? On the 4 issues that you have highlighted. Are you right, Lady?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. but most of you did follow these guidelines, but I'm mentioning here so that we make sure that no one is left out in terms of bringing that. Yeah, we don't want to leave anyone outside that. So we want all of us to go according to these guidelines. All right, then let's continue then. Where do we put full stop? At the end of the sentence, we put a full stop. And also, when you put commas, we put a full stop. There is no space between the full stop and the sentence that is prior to that. So in other words, when you put full stop, it should be lean against the sentence that you are closing. If you have a comma as well, you have a comma there, you don't leave a space before the comma, but after a comma and after a full stop, you must leave a space. Not more than one, just a space. Long time ago, we used to have 2, but now with the new computers, the new system, it allows 1. Because if you have more than 1, it will indicate with blue that no, you have more than 1 space here between the sentences. But before the full stop and the comma or the semicolon or the colon, don't leave a space, leave a space after. That's what we do there. Okay, here is another one that I think has affected most of you, the hanging function. What is the hanging function? Let's sit down here. Here's the hanging function. Do you notice that the surname of the author here is overlapping like that in all these references? That is called a hanging function. So it should not be straight. It should not be straight. This citation should not be straight here. This should not come to here, but it should hang like that. So do you know where to find hanging function, this hanging function? Anyone who can tell us where to find the hanging function so that our list of references will be according to APA 7, where we'll have them hanging like this. Where do we find the hanging function? What about cat teachers? Don't we have those who are teaching cat here? Where do you get it? When Zilia Kongma, where do you get this hanging function? Yeah, where do you get it?
Okay, uzofika uhighlight ama-references onke, then uye lapha phezulu kuno A to Z.
Where is that? Here.
Lapha kuno A khona no Z. Yeah.
And then when you are there, what will happen?
Then uzochoose ukuthi ufuna ama-reference akhe ascending noma descending.
No, I'm not asking about ascending because we'll have to follow that already. You have to make sure that you follow the ascending order of your references. But here I'm just referring to this one, to this function that helped me to overlap the authors like this. You see all my references here in this list. They are overlapping. The authors are overlapping. The function is called hanging function. So I was then asking, where do we buy it from? Chapter, where do we buy it from?
JT, shut up.
Where? Chapter. Hello. Running away. Okay.
Zakala, Chapter.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where you get it from. You go under paragraphs. When you are under paragraphs, there will be a dialog box there. It has a look in written special. Under special, you open that look in. Inside there's that function called hanging. But you first highlight all the whole list of your references. Then you go to paragraphs. From paragraph is on top there. From paragraphs, you look for the function that is titled as special. Under special, you open the look in there, you will find hanging there. Hanging, you click it, it will help you so that all your references will be like this. You can see mine here that they are following that hanging function. I'm sure you have seen it. If you try it, you'll try it and see it. And then while we are still there, what happened then when we have one author who published more than one articles in 1 year, more than one article in that same year, and then you want to use both or all of those references that were published by that author in that particular year. For example, if you see Koza here, Koza has cited publishing 2 articles in 2020. So 2 articles that were going to be used in writing. So what you do then, you give one of them A, the second one B, the third one C. So it will be the year and the symbol. So when you see the symbol like that, it means the same author published more than one article in that same year. So all what you do then, you use symbols to to distinguish between those articles. Are you with me there? In understanding that when do we use A, B, C in references? Yes.
Sorry, Sam.
Yeah.
You are saying only if you wanna use all those articles that the author published in that same year, you only use this method. Okay.
Yes. For instance, if you decide to use one only, don't include A or B or something. But if you use more than one, distinguish them using symbols, 2020 A, 2020 B. Then that's how you separate them.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, sure. All right, then we continue then to the next level, which is next point, which is number 7. Number 7 is saying, when we teach, there's a teaching reason. The teaching reason may be performance. You are teaching for performance to address the need of performance curriculum, or you teach because of the reason of competence-based curriculum, or the reason of pragmatic curriculum. So our reasons are not coming without being shaped by our major forms of curriculum. For example, if the reason is that of performance curriculum, it means qualification will be due to the participant after you have done your teaching. So therefore, the content then should be part of what you are doing, because the reason for performance curriculum is that learners must master the content and reproduce the content as they were given. Because when they were given that content, the content is prescribed out there as facts to be used in that particular subject. However, if you were to teach for competence-based, so your reason is that of following competence-based curriculum, which is learner-centered, following learner-centeredness, it means you are teaching them for socialization so that they will be able to socialize and then go out there to their communities and be able to apply the skills that they used for socialization in your particular class. So you help them to learn to socialize, to be able to defend themselves, even if they are wrong. According to other people, they should be able to defend themselves. So part of their socialization should be that. It's not that they should master the content and get A's, get 100%, no. As long as they pass to achieve the outcome, but the main goal there, the main reason there is that they must be able to learn how to socialize with people around them and be able to defend themselves around those communities and help their communities to defend themselves against other communities. So when you write it, then try to write to make sure that at the back of your mind, you have a specific reason that you are using your philosophy for. If your philosophy will need competence-based curriculum, you must be able to generate the strength of competence-based curriculum. If your curriculum, like in South Africa right now, that we are forced to use CAPS, which is a performance-based curriculum, Therefore, we are given specific content which we have to use to drill our learners in order for them to get A's, to get 7s in their subjects. If we don't do that, we may waste enough time, which is given to our learners to make sure that they finish the syllabus and master the whole content And then after that, when they write end of the year, they can be able to reproduce that and get A's, especially their metric exam where they are tested. Because remember, previously we had competence-based curriculum, which was curriculum 2005, where South Africa declared the learning outcomes. Said there are the learning outcomes because this is learner-centeredness. Therefore, you must be able to achieve the outcomes. We are not going to give you content. You'll see what content you do have in order to help these learners to achieve these outcomes. But because our learners couldn't compete with other countries, even the developing countries were just beating us big time. As a result of that, we then had to change then to performance curriculum, because performance curriculum is where we are dealing with the content which is internationally recognized according to standard of different countries. Therefore, research has to be conducted to identify specific content for that particular subject, which is used globally in order to make sure that when you travel from one country to another, then you have the specific content. So for performance curriculum, then you are forced to drill learners with the content. But for competence-based curriculum, you are forced to push learners to use their experience to achieve learning outcomes. But when you combine the two, you produce the so-called pragmatic curriculum, where the reason is to address your personal needs in order to be happy. How you address this, it doesn't matter whether you draw more from performance curriculum issues or from competence-based curriculum issues, it doesn't matter, as long as the need will be addressed. So when the need is addressed, then it means your goal was achieved in terms of your teaching. So these reasons then should always be show us that you understand these reasons. But I've seen quite a number of you, they've tried their best really to show that, yes, this is where I include performance curriculum, but this is where I bring in issues of competence-based curriculum in order to make sure that the needs are being addressed according to the situation that we are facing. So a good example of this is that I told you that I visited the Herikwala district. So this district had schools who did not make it, where schools achieved less than 40% in their metric, where they get to be judged, because we are all judged by metric. So if we are high school, we're judged by the performance of our metric students. So there, what I discovered there is that there were these schools that poorly performed is because they were following competence-based curriculum, where they were able to help learners to do something in the area, to do some specific jobs with their communities, to say so-and-so is a driver, so-and-so is a soccer player, so-and-so is this, you see. So they did not concentrate more on the content of their subjects so that they will be able to deal with the issue of their subjects and then pass. So then we had to negotiate that, we had to reflect with those principals and the directors who were affected and the circuit managers. We had to deal with that issue so that we show them that no, what you have against performance curriculum, it's your own construction, it's your own thinking, it's your own interpretation. But South Africa right now is demanding you that if you don't want to work against the nation, you would follow performance curriculum, because we are given specific content to say factorization is 2 hours. you follow this and this and this. If you don't do that, you are denying your learners the opportunity to get that content so that when they write their exam, they can do like what other Model C schools are doing. Because if you go to Model C schools, they still have this body, the so-called school knowledge, which is the body of knowledge, which they give to learners and drill learners with that. So that, because even if it means these learners are not able to apply this content, they will apply it when the time is right. For example, in my case, I grew up in one of the rural area where we were taught to memorize content. But whatever I was memorizing, whatever I was singing, I was doing well because I was getting distinction most of the time, because I had to make sure that as painful as it was, but I had to memorize, to be able to memorize and make it like a song, sing it like a song. So when I write and sing while I'm singing. So, but when I graduated to the next classes, I started to understand that, oh, this is what this teacher was indicating. I can still even remember some what you call some definition that I had at that time that now I understood later what they meant, but they were helping me to write and pass. So what other schools are doing then, they make sure that they have this kind of performance curriculum where they drill these learners with content. And then if they still have time after they've drilled them, they can start to say, okay, can you generate your own? Can you do it in your own way? They can do it when they have their own time or part of their homework. But in a classroom situation, they are given 2 hours for specific content or 1 hour for this one. They can't then deviate from that, because once they deviate, they will have the so-called blowback, where the situation now is getting back at them because they are not following the prescribed curriculum. If your curriculum is performance, learn more about performance curriculum so that you are able to follow the principles and the strength of performance curriculum. Same thing applies to competence-based curriculum. When the department decides to say, let's change it now, competence-based curriculum, understand the strength of competence-based curriculum as a curriculum specialist, deal with it from there. But don't try to say, I enjoy using performance curriculum because in competence-based curriculum, students are not achieving 100% and 90%. Mentioning that, you will be creating another world that will take your energy, your intelligence, and then deviate it to what you are criticizing. So try not to even think about what the department is not referring to you to do, is not offering you to do. Take what the department has, and then later, if what you like, which is not given by the department, you can have your own time, maybe use weekends, if you want your learners to understand something from their own experiences. But in your classroom situation, that's what teachers had to do. So when we discovered that there was this problem, we also discovered that even Mkungunjovo district has invited me to do the same thing, to say teachers, because what teachers, when they reflected there, they reflected to say that, no, they are scared of not using the term learner-centered approach, because they look like they don't like democratic processes. Then, but performance curriculum has nothing to do with those democratic processes. Practice that democratic processes outside the class. But if the department is asking you to implement competence-based curriculum, then practice issues of performance curriculum outside your class, not in that situation. So, because if you do that, you'll have the so-called blowback. So those schools are facing the so-called blowback, where the nature is working against you because you are working against the principles that are given by your authority. Then you have a problem like that. So much that when I've seen quite a number of you writing to say, I like learner-centered approach because teacher-centered approach is bad, spoon-feeding learners and this. Don't touch that territory. If you are using competence-based curriculum where learner-centeredness is driving that pedagogy or that curriculum, just use the strength of what you have, which is learner-centeredness, but don't talk about the opposite. Because when you talk about the opposite will be the one that will dominate your subconscious mind. Because you are scared of it, therefore it will dominate your subconscious mind. It's like when you say to yourself, if you say, I don't want to think about lions because I'm afraid of lions. The moment you mention the word, the term or the name lion, they will be added in your subconscious mind, or they will be multiplied by a certain number because you cannot think them away or thought them away. No, there's no way like that. The conscious mind or subconscious mind, it's something that we have developed for quite a number of years, keeping new information, drilling it with new information. So now to say that because I'm afraid of the lion, I don't want to think about it. The moment you say you don't want to think about it, it will be multiplied by a number of lions in your system. But if you don't cough it out, you stand a chance that it may end up disappearing in your system, because if you have indicated to other people, those friends of yours will keep on reminding you. They will keep on reminding you. So don't say something that is negative about yourself or about your thinking, because what will happen is that people whom you are talking to will keep on reminding you, even if you have graduated from that notion, but they will remind you. Then you start to have the challenge of thinking back, of going back again, you see. So we are not going to develop. So open enough space to say, I deal with what I need, and then you deal with it only. It's like the example that I indicated to say, if you sell apples only. Don't talk about banana or pears or peaches. Don't talk about those. Talk about this, so that your system, your subconscious mind will record this, and then it will become your lifestyle. Apples will be your lifestyle. But the moment you start to compare, to say, unlike banana, apples, no, don't do that. Don't even indicate banana, because it's negative to you. Therefore, don't mention it, so that you make sure that your system is cleaning it out. Keep on mentioning your apples all the time. So when you write your teaching philosophy, then keep on mentioning things that you like most, the things that you need most in your teaching. Don't mention what you don't need. When you write your assignment, do the same. Write according to your strength, according to what you need, and then leave what you don't need to those who will need it. Because in this world, there are other people who will need it as much as you don't need it in your case, but they will need it. Okay, let's go to curriculum, to missing curriculum concept. In some teaching philosophies, there were some missing concepts where I did not see a specific curriculum concept that is showing us how the operation is going. So in other words, maybe if someone will simply say, I'll use pragmatism. Yes, pragmatism is part of the curriculum, But what are the principles? What are the curriculum principles of pragmatic that you are using? And remember, these issues are coming from different studies, are coming from certain studies. If you say, I'll use pragmatism or pragmatic curriculum, you need to indicate, you need to cite whose pragmatic curriculum is this. Cite the author who started the journey of talking about that curriculum, that pragmatic curriculum. If you say, I use constructivist approach or constructivist learning theory, whose constructivist learning theory is this? Is it Vygotsky? Is it Koza? Is it Smith? So that when you have the author who has just produced that constructivism, that model of constructivism in whatever year, you must also do the follow-up. What are the principles of this constructive? What are the curriculum principles of this constructivism that was discovered by Smith or by Mkhize or by whosoever? But if you don't know who discovered it, you may run a risk of not knowing the principles of this. Then you will end there to say, I'll use a pragmatism or pragmatic approach or pragmatic curriculum. That is not telling us about how you operate within your teaching philosophy. If you want us to know that, all what you need to do is to make sure that you talk about pragmatism or pragmatic curriculum, whose pragmatic curriculum is this? You talk about constructivism, whose constructivism is it? There are quite a variety of authors who have written about constructivism learning. Others will say constructivism, others will say constructivist learning theory. Others will use the same constructivist to say, no, I use it as a paradigm. You see, therefore, if you say social constructivist without indicating the author who has produced that theory so that you can get the principles, you may run a risk of not applying that constructivism. So you need to go deeper in that case. So you have learner-centered approach, you must also go deeper to say, if you say learner-centered pedagogy, what are the principles of learner-centered pedagogy, and who study identified these? Then you go according to that. Then we'll understand, because we'll read the study of that particular author, and then we know that, no, you are on the right track. But if you drop it and without its principles, it may not help you to show us the operation of that learner-centeredness. So you will see in our next week discussion how people throw these things and then without understanding them, they just leave them there as the name or as the term. But when you go and observe in operation, you find that they are doing opposite. So you make sure then that you mention that maybe that concept, and then you give us curriculum concept that underpin it. What are these? What do you do? You start by assessing them, which means your first part is assessment. You start by giving them activities, which means another principle is activities. So that's what we need to see. If you say you work with constructivism or you work with progressivism or whatever concept that seems there to bring forward, you must give us the idea of what are the principles. So number 10 is the same as the top one, because here I'm saying, try when you report on what you know, what you need, rather than what you don't. So here, for example, here, if you say, what I like running, however, I hate laughing. You see now, the moment you bring laughing, other people will simply say, okay, let's not even listen to that person, to this person, because laughing is what we like. Laughing is what what we use to keep ourselves happy. Then you lose the readers then. So report on what is positive, unless there's a demand that you must report on the negative issue. But without that, just be positive about anything that is happening in front of you. Collect all positive issues around this universe, bring them forward, so that when you talk about what is positive all the time. And it's positive to you because you can justify that this is happening like this. This is happening. It will keep you happy all the time. But if you look aside to say, oh, let me check the negatives, then you are now overloading your internal intelligence, because now spending time with things that are negative, it's really, really depressing. That's why you find that other people are depressed, etc., because they concentrate on what they interpret as negative. But if in your case, in your journey, starting with your teaching philosophy like this, to start to say, I will only work on the positive things, because whatever you think is negative is just your interpretation, is not negative. Other people will say, no, that's not negative. They don't even mention what you think is negative. Bring what you know and like, or like most. Okay, the issue of citation again. Here you go. When you claim a statement to say teachers are good when it comes to the teaching of biology, that claim should be coming from somewhere. All what you need to do is just to cite the author that has just indicated that to you. So when I comment to your work, I'll simply write sources. If you see sources, you must know that I was referring to the claims that were supposed to be given, that were taken from somewhere, but you forgot to put those. You must go back to your reading and then bring the sources for those claims. Especially with theories, if you say progressivism, you must indicate whose progressivism is that, because there are many authors who generated their study, who generated that term from their studies. Then we want to know whose progressivism is this, so that when you take another author's principles of progressivism, we can start to say we deduct marks for that, because you are mentioning this author whose principles of progressivism are these, but you are taking that of the other author. So there's a mix up there, which means you did not read well. We force you to go and read well. And when you are doing that, you may have a study that is older than 5 years, but we are expecting you to also dig deeper to get authors that are recent authors, recent sources. So recent sources are counting from now to 5 years back. So in other words, from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. So recent studies then are referring to studies that were conducted between 2017 and 2022. Those are recent studies. So when you see my comment indicating recent studies, you must know that I'm referring to that. And then the claims, when I say sources, source or sources, I'm indicating to you that no, this claim indicated that you are treating it as a fact. So all facts are coming from somewhere. Therefore, whose work generated these facts? You cite that person using APA style of citation. And then we also You also move to the next one where we are saying learn from. Learners are learning from each other. And then others will say learners are learning from their teacher. Is that okay? Learning from versus learn with. What is the difference between learning with and learning from? Anyone who would like to share that information? Learning with or learning from? Jovu, what do you say? Lusanda, do you have any idea of the difference between the two? Oh, it looked like Notando there would like to share that. Notando, you can go ahead. What is the difference between learning from and learning with?
No, I did not want to share anything, but learning from.
Learning from is?
Okay, if I can share what I think. Learning from is receiving passively information. And then learning with is to be actively involved in the learning process. If I can put it like that.
Then you know, Notando, you know exactly, but you did not want to tell us. Are you competing with us? Because if you compete with us, you'll keep that information to yourself without sharing with us. But you are saying it well, because learning from is when you have your teacher, which means the term that came from performance curriculum, that learners are learning from their teachers. They are passively expected to learn from their teachers, because their teachers have specific rules that when these learners deviate from those specific rules, they will fail. But should they follow those rules as they are, whether they like or not, they will get 100%, they'll get excellent. Like, for example, if you were to teach mathematics, for example, you are teaching a grade 11 learner, where you find that they start to complete the square. Completing the square, it's a rule that has some sub rules that you need to follow. If there are 10, if it says start with this, you must start with that, etc., etc. So they are learning from their teacher and from their books. But if you were to take another opposite, which is the competence-based curriculum in teaching the same completing the square, you were going to tell these learners to say, can you go out there and ask your parents or your society about the rules of completing the square? Then tomorrow you must bring them here so that we can discuss. Then learners will do that. They'll go to other teachers from other schools and then start to ask about that. And then they'll come with it here, and then they'll demonstrate. And then the teacher will then just give them the opportunity to do that. But now that is happening if you are applying competence-based curriculum, where you have enough time. For example, if you have to teach this completing the square, because I think in school is one hour or so to teach them how to complete the square. But if you were to take the competence-based curriculum, you are going to need about a day, a whole day, maybe about more than 6 hours to teach them how to complete the square. And then the rules there, you help them to follow the rules. But because they will be generating it from outside, even those who will be taking the shortcut to influence these other learners of yours to take the shortcut, they will cause a lot of challenging situation where they will be challenging others to think otherwise. only to find that they may come to understand it maybe after 3 months. Yet the department is expecting this thing to be understood by these learners within one period, 1 hour. It's given 1 hour. Therefore, so in other words, those will be coming from performance curriculum, they will list all the rules. Rule 1, you divide by this. Rule 2, you add this. Rule 3, so you have all those rules. So all what the learners will do, they will understand those and apply those rules. Keep on applying those rules. But whereas if you take the performance curriculum, the competence-based curriculum, they will look around for sometimes looking for these rules from other teachers, from people who are outside the class, and then when they have it, they'll come and discuss it. When they apply it and find that it's not working, they will have to go back again, keep on doing it. When are they going to finish the syllabus? It's then the challenge that some of the schools in somewhere in Okwini and Kumunjovu district are facing right now, because they are in the notion where they are saying no, for them, they are still continuing with performance curriculum because they say it's learner-centered. But what is the use if you don't finish the syllabus? Because if the department is saying to you 1 hour for this, then you say, no, I'll take days, because I'll take learners to go out there and bring information, the principles of this thing. Then if those principles are not working, you send them away again. Therefore, it's not making it for the Department of Basic Education. It may make it for you because the aim is to produce learners who may be able to discuss issues and defend themselves, but it's not working for the school. So the width then is coming from there, that these learners will go out there, come back with content which they can use in completing the square. So when they share with others, they are learning with them. Even the teacher is with them. The teacher is learning with them, other learners are learning with them. But in performance curriculum, they are learning from the teacher and from their books. If there is a learner who is good in doing it, the learner would first have to listen to the teacher and learn from the teacher, and then the learner can expand on what the teacher has given the learner. So it's a matter of form of curriculum. Whether it's from is for performance, with is for competence-based. So you need to be aware of those. There's also this part called transitions from one idea to the next idea. So the transition, what I mean here is that when you write from one sentence to the next sentence, we should see a connecting word. That yes, we are still talking about assessment. Okay, this sentence is still talking about assessment, and the next one is talking about assessment, and the next one, etc. So they must have a linking word that is to do with assessment, if the assessment is the main issue. And then when you conclude that paragraph, you conclude by introducing the next element, where you say assessment is good. However, assessment is important when you understand content. You see now, this paragraph is concluded by introducing the content. The next paragraph, the expectation is that you'll be discussing the content. What is the content? What kind of content do you have in your subject, etc., etc. And then when you are done with the content, you conclude by introducing the next issue. You go like that. That's what I meant by transition there. So don't just conclude without introducing the next issue. And then there's this symbol. When we cite, when do we use this symbol in our citation? When we cite, you can see there is there. Here is there. But when do we use it? Or when should we use it? We only use it when we cite inside brackets. When you cite inside brackets, you use that symbol to indicate more than one author of that publication. You use the symbol. But if you cite outside the brackets, you use the word and, khoza and fomunyam. So it will be khoza. If it is outside the brackets, this symbol should not be used, but we should use the word and. That's where we use it. And then in terms of using symbol like A's and B's, we said if that author has published more than one article in the same year, you want to use both, or you want to use all that were published that time, then you deal with it from there. Number 16, we have goals versus objectives. What is the difference between goals and objectives? Who can tell us? Who can help us to understand the two? The goals and the objectives. Anyone who would like to share that information with us? How about you?
Goals are long term.
Goals are?
Goals are long term, objectives are short term.
How about the aim? The aim? Okay, let's say objective is the short term what? Okay. Yeah. Ngobi, you wanted to say something? Okay, remember. Yeah, Ngobi, yes, you can share.
I think object is a short term of aim.
A short term of?
The short term. Okay, can I explain using an example? For example, a battle and the war.
Yeah.
Those two terms. So objects are groups of aims that lead to a goal. For example, battles are groups of small, can I say, war that lead to a final war. So objectives are just small aims, if I may put that way.
Okay.
That leads to a main. So the goals is the main. I'm not sure then.
Okay.
So
okay.
Goal is a long term.
Yeah. No, it's all right. Objectives are also goals, but these are short-term goals for teachers. That's what the teachers intend to achieve during the short period of his or her teaching. So these are goals. All of them are goals. So under goals, we have aims, which is the long-term goal of what we are doing. And then we have objective, which is the short-term goal of what we are doing. Then we have learning outcomes, which are the learner's goals. So learners have those goals, which is outcomes. Teachers have long-term goal and short-term goal called aims and objectives. So those, so in other words, if you say objectives are short-term goals, yes, you are correct, because it's what we need to achieve as teachers now. But if I include aims, it's what I need to achieve in the long period of time. So for example, if I say the aim is to introduce learners to the principles of factorization. That's my aim, because it's a long-term goal. But if I take objectives, I'll simply say learners should understand blah, 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 blah. So understand is the key word for objectives for the teachers. But when I have to construct the outcomes, then I need the operational keywords that learners will be able to define or discuss or sketch, or something that they will do. And then the teacher will see that, yes, I've achieved the short-term goal, which is the objective, because learners have achieved the learning outcome. So when the learners achieve the learning outcomes, the teachers then start to understand that they've achieved their objectives, or if they use aims, they've achieved their aims. That's how the teachers do. That's why when you see, when you have your organizational vision, you start to project objectives as well, to say, these are the objectives. You have start with vision, mission statement, which they reduce the focus, and then you end up bringing the objectives. Objectives will help you to see on daily basis how you achieve what you want to achieve as your vision. So the objectives are short-term goals. And then what about learner and students? Learners, usually we use school students, and then students, then we use university students normally. That's what we normally do. What about teachers? Difference between teachers and educators. Teachers are those in the classroom situation who are teaching in the classroom situation, but educators include even the Minister of Education, because all those who are involved in education are called educators. So during competence-based curriculum, remember, we were using this term all the time because we did not want to use the teacher concept, since we were moving away from performance curriculum, which was the then Christian National Education, to this one, which was called Curriculum 2005, which was competence-based driven. That's why they call it outcomes-based education. They were just hiding competence-based curricula. So that it was going to be new. And then instructor and facilitator. In performance curriculum, we instruct learners to follow the rules as they are. Any deviation, we don't tolerate. We deal with those who are deviating from there so that they will fail. And then in facilitation is where we simply allow our learners to deviate and then do trial and error method so that we can get along with them. How about in terms of English then? In South Africa, we use UK English. Remember, we were oppressed by UK. Therefore, we are colonized by England. Therefore, now our English is still, the acceptable one is still that of England, which we believe is the original English. So when you talk about center, it brings center like this instead of this. So this one is the USA English. When you use the center like this, you are following USA English. And then you have specialization, something like that, the England versus USA. So, but in South Africa, to be consistent, we use UK English. And then in terms of number 21, separating words. If we want to combine two words or more than two words, all what we do, we use forward slash. So before and after forward slash, we should not have a space. So it should be something like this. It should be forward slash. We use that when, especially when we are given a number of words. If maybe this publication is demanding that you must not exceed 6,000 words. So if I feel that there are words that I need, but now if I separate them, they will then exceed 6,000 words. Therefore, you just use forward slash to say forward slash, it will combine this to be one word. But we'll know that these are two words, but we have combined them using forward slash. Okay, and then we go to this one, the frame of reference. I think this one, it's important that you note it because I think you are not aware of it. The frame of reference is what you generate from your discussion. You discuss a certain issue, you discuss it and discuss, and then you start to interpret it. When you interpret it, you are giving us a frame of reference. You will see when we do the next example on how the frame of reference has to be used. So when you write without the frame of reference, you must know that your work will be too general to constitute academic work, because we bring studies, we discuss the issue using these particular studies, and then we bring our voice. Our voice is producing, because it's interpreting that discussion by producing a frame of reference. A frame of reference is what we'll use to critique anything that will come across us after reading your article or after reading your specific issue. For example, if I were to say, I am looking for handsome people, then I will first have to discuss that handsome, it's a term used like this and this and this and this. When people are handsome, they normally refer to their nose. Their nose is like this and this, or their eyes are sometimes like this. So studies will give me a nice discussion around this so-called handsome. So when I conclude then that discussion, I can start now to say, this suggests that for one to be handsome, one has to have this nose and this kind of eyes and this kind of this, etc., etc., etc. Now, when I come across people now, I can use this frame to say, oh, so and so is handsome, because you fit the frame of reference. No, so and so is it's ugly, because it's not fitting within there. It's not part of those who are handsome. But I cannot judge them if you did not give me a frame of reference of how you interpret handsome. Is like what I indicated previously to say. If you say you use constructivism or constructivist learning theory, I need to know the principles of that, so that when people claim that they use constructivism or constructivist learning theory, I'll start to say, no, but you don't have outcomes. How can you claim that you use that? Because according to the frame of reference, it will say, this suggests that anyone who is using constructivism will have to declare the outcomes, activities, facilitation, role, and peer assessment. So if I don't see these four issues, these principles, which means this person is not using constructivism learning theory, then I can argue with this person to say, no. According to so and so, you should be having this and this and this. So when you write your assignment, you write, discuss the issue. If you discuss assessment, you discuss that assessment, bring different studies and then and that. But at the end of your discussion, we want you to interpret, what does this suggest? It suggests that for assessment to be effective, one has to do A, B, C, D. So that when I go to teachers out there and start to say, are you effectively using some assessment? And then teachers will say, yes, of course, yes. Then I'll start to say, okay, do you do A, B, C, D? Or you don't have this, therefore it's not effective. Because according to so and so, in order for assessment to be effective, you need this frame of reference. Here's the frame of reference for effectiveness. So that's what you need to apply then in your major assignment 1. But for your philosophy, I did not push it much more, but I'll push it when you write your major assignment 1, because that's what it will be about. But you'll see when we do the example. Here is the inverted comma number 23. Inverted commas, where do we use inverted commas? We use inverted commas when we take that direct quote from that publication. We put inverted commas. They should be double inverted commas and the page number to indicate that you have a direct quote. But if you paraphrase with your own English and write in your own way, but the same idea, you write it in your own way, then you can just put the author's name together with the year in bracket. Then it will mean you are acknowledging it, the idea, but you are not taking a direct quote. But the moment you take that direct quote, we need to see inverted commas together with page number. That's what we'll accept. And then use APA 7th style. But we do allow 6th as well, but because the difference is just more. But you must make sure that you know, you are aware of APA 7th style. Because there are many styles. They have Harvard style, there's Chicago style, there's so many of them. But UKZN School of Education has adopted APA 7. Therefore, you must use it. I have also uploaded the same APA 7 style as part of your learning, of your Moodle learning site. If you go there, you'll see it is there. And then the use of will. You see, when you write your teaching philosophy, we are not asking you to write what you will do, but we are asking about what you are right now. So it should be saying, I use pragmatism as the driver of my teaching philosophy, not that I will use, because it's like now you are writing a proposal for something that you will experience. We don't need that. We need what you have already experienced, that whatever that made you to be what you are right now. That's what we need. So the will is referring to what you are intending to do. But in this case, we want this right now. Even when you write your introduction of your major assignment 1, the expectation is that you will write simple present tense. This is a discuss this and this and this and this, etc., etc. Then let's go to this one now, where you say, you use words like furthermore, however, consequently, therefore. So this word will need a comma after each one of them, because you are saying you are connecting to the next argument. So those are the issues that I picked up from your teaching philosophy. Anything that you think we missed before we go to the example of your major assignment 1? Nothing so far. Let me continue. Get straight to example of assignment 1. Let's deal with it. Where is this now? Is it that? I don't seem to see it here. Where is this now? Example of assignment 1. Shoo. I have so many things here. I have so many now. Okay, let me see if I can get it from a desktop or something. Assignment one there. Okay, let me share this first and see if it's there. Okay, stop sharing that. Yes, Zandile.
Sir,
Yes.
I'm sorry if I would be disturbing your plans, but sir, I have a request.
Okay.
Can we please go through the assignment question together? I don't know if you planned to go through it after the example, but I would really appreciate if we just go through the question, please.
Okay, let me open it first then. Okay, let me open it first. It should be under this. Okay, close this thing now. We don't need this. And then we go back to that. I need that. Oh no. Okay, got it back there. Okay, let's take it from here. Where is this? On the learning guide, and then we minimize the, oh no. Okay, this is not taking us through. Not right one. It should be the learning guide. Okay, there you go. Then we go back to that. And then we share this. Learning guide is there. Then we share it. Okay, do you see the learning guide then?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go there. Okay, here is the question for this. Do you all see it? Let me increase the size maybe. And then we close this thing this side. Okay, so here is the question for that. You see the question there, it says the first assignment would require you to conduct an analysis of your subject or learning area. That is the curriculum policy or equivalent to your policy. Use specific concepts that underpin your teaching philosophy. Are you with me there? The first part like that? That in your teaching philosophy, you had some specific concepts that underpin your teaching. Now you are required now to take those and use them to frame your discussion on analyzing your subject or a specific lesson that you taught that you think was good for you. For example, it says here, for example, you may choose one of the lessons you previously taught and use specific concepts that underpin your teaching philosophy to analyze. So in other words, if you taught a lesson on the 5th of March 2020, you can take that lesson and analyze it by showing us how your teaching philosophy is articulating what you are teaching. That is your curriculum policy. Are we with me there? Are you still with me, guys?
Yes.
Yes. So,
Yes.
but remember, we said when we started this, Jen, we said, however, you may decide to interview teachers, you see, if you do empirical study. But we said we discourage that because it will only work for those who already have projects that they are conducting under the university, because they already have the ethical clearance. Applying for ethical clearance takes time, but we allow those who already have ethical clearance for other projects to interview those teachers and just write a report according to that. But that report will also be marked in the same way as what you will be written here, you'll be writing here, what is written there, where you simply say, here is my curriculum. For instance, if I teach geography, I will take CAPS geography. I'll go to CAPS and then bring geography from there to say, here is the curriculum of, here is geography curriculum, grade 10, if it is grade 10. And then from there, I will simply say, I remember a nice lesson I had with this great so and so in May 2021. So that was the excellent teaching that I had. Therefore, you then declare to analyze that particular lesson using the concept that you've declared as part of your teaching philosophy. For example, there are those of you who said they make sure that when they teach, they are clear with the outcomes that need to be achieved. And also they project certain objectives that are going with their teaching. And then from there, they make sure that they follow the prescribed content. Moving from there, they make sure that they conclude by using summative assessment, which the Department of Basic Education is using the term formal assessment. But for them, they say summative assessment, to be specific according to their literature they've used. So in saying that, then you can see then that when they analyze the lesson that they taught before, they will use those concepts. They will check whether they were doing well with objectives, the outcomes, the content, and assessment. Others even included resources, specific resources that are electronically driven, that they use those in order to produce activities, blah, 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 something like that. But you know what you said in your teaching philosophy. That's what you want you to go out there, take that frame, bring it here, then you start to analyze what you taught before. And then from there, then when you teach it, remember your current curriculum or the other that is equivalent to that. If you are not teaching in South Africa, you're teaching outside, you show something that is equivalent to CAPS, and then you show us how then you articulated that particular lesson, which was interesting to you. But otherwise, others, they may choose the lesson that was bad for them with an aim of making sure that when they teach next time, they improve on that. Therefore, they may analyze that lesson here in this task so that it will work for them. Yes, Notando? Unmute yourself. Yes?
Yeah. Okay, I think my confusion is mainly focused on whether I should actually bring the lesson into the analysis in a sense that, do I even write the specific outcomes that I expected, or I'm just analyzing whether the concepts relate to my lesson, my favorite lesson, if I could put it like that. I think the confusion is there. If I must bring the actual lesson into my assignment, write down what I did. This is how.
Yes,
This assignment is shifting.
Yeah, we need the real lesson that you taught so that it should not be taken general from the literature, but we need you to bring the literature as well as what you actually did in that particular lesson.
But now, your example,
Yeah,
sir.
for example, if I had an outcome that in that lesson I was teaching learners how to create tables, then the first thing that I declared there, because I was using performance curriculum, is that I first had to identify a table, a model of a table, which was going to be used for this particular lesson. So when I Googled for it, I managed to get that particular model of a table. So therefore, I will then describe the model of a table that according to so and so, when you create table, this is what you do, blah, 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 blah. You then make yeah. And then after that, you make a frame of reference. Once you have a frame of reference, then you'll tell us whether you are doing well or not when you identify that model. Because you know from the literature. Yeah.
So basically, I'm giving you a lesson plan. We might as well just say that I'm basically giving my lesson plan, how I planned my lesson, what my outcomes were, what my objectives were, what resources I used. It's a lesson plan.
Yeah, yes, but others, they teach without a lesson plan when they consider curriculum as a plan of. They teach, after that, then they can explain to us. But before they teach, they did not have the lesson plan. So it's flexible here. If you started with a lesson plan, that's what we need to know, what exactly is happening. But if you did not have a lesson plan, again, tell us what was the action that you take in order to address the particular lesson.
Okay. So it would be okay if I could include pictures of my lesson plan and include pictures of the actual, does it actually count if I could also include, say for my case, I'm in ECD, include the corners and so forth, pictures in the form of pictures, is it okay, or it's just a basic analysis of the lesson?
Yeah, I think you will have to do that in your major assignment too, where you will be planning to teach. But in this case, we want the plan that you have to analyze it. You analyze the plan that you had when you were teaching it. How did you teach this thing? But you can bring the lesson plan if you still have enough space to bring lesson plan as well. It looked like Sitogozile want to clarify for us something.
Sir,
yeah,
I was wondering if it's possible for you to give us like a guideline in terms of what are you expecting to see from your introduction?
remember Sitogozile,
Yes, sir.
you asked me to go back to the question while I was trying to give you an example of how you should go about the whole thing. You remember that I have an example that side, which is waiting for us. When we are done with the question, we'll then go to the actual example.
No, sir, I see the example.
Yeah.
And what I'm like talking about is like, what is it when you're marking or reading our essay or whatsoever? What is it that you're expecting to see like from our introduction? Because what I noticed is that when I was writing my philosophy, I don't think I did it the way in which you were looking for. Because I'm judging from the guidelines that you wrote at the beginning, things that we should avoid for our major assignment. So what I'm asking, sir, is like for you to tell us specifically for the introduction, not the example. I can see the example, but for you, when you're reading our work, it's like, what are you expecting to see?
I'm expecting to see the background of your subject, where you are introducing your subject, and then the introduction of the concept that guide your writing.
Sir, can you please repeat that again, please?
I wish to see the back, like any assignment, you start with the background in the introduction. What is the background? And what is the problematic issue? And then you bring in forward the key, the concept that will frame your writing. That is the introduction. In any assignment that you write, remember, you start with a tentative background about your subject, and then you bring in the lesson specific, you trim down to the lesson, and then from the lesson, you then tell us what are the frame that frame your assignment. Then your next part, then after the introduction, you start with those frames that frame what you are writing. Is that okay? It looked like Litemba would like to clarify something. Litemba?
Okay, sir.
Oh.
I don't know whether, okay, I need to put it like this. So actually what you're saying is that we are actually bringing the actual picture of what we are doing in the classroom or what we did before, and actually bringing it into the whole assignment.
Exactly.
Like you want to see the picture of how we are teaching or how we taught before, and the actual challenges from the beginning of the lesson to the end of the lesson, in line with the curriculum or not in line with the curriculum, if that was or what happened, is actually what Prof is looking for.
Exactly, in line with your curriculum concept that you identified there. That's exactly what I'm expecting.
No, but
Okay.
Yes.
Because I said that we must not focus on the negative things that happen in our classrooms. For example, my presentation last week, I had a problem with I sent it and then I put in the issue of the errors. But now we're supposed to bring forward issues that we're facing in classrooms. Honestly, I think I speak for the majority when I say that this assignment is very confusing, and I'm afraid that we're going to be repeating mistakes that we did on our philosophy, and the guidelines came after actually doing the philosophy. So if you could like get guidelines of exactly how we must articulate our assignment, because we cannot just bait with our assignment one. It contains 40%.
No, but I gave you the guideline of a philosophy, teaching philosophy, and the example, and you all get it correct. You did well, all of you. Because that's what you articulated. You articulated your feelings according to how you look at education. So the issues that I was listing there, I was listing them to advance in terms of how you write your assignment. They are not generally specific to your philosophy. Your philosophy, you did well. All what I wanted to see is for you to produce specific concepts that drive your teaching philosophy. We need them for this particular assignment. So when you bring then those here, you'll use them to critique what you have been doing. Give us a picture, a full picture of what you have done in your classroom situation or what you have been doing. And then we want to see you critiquing your work. So in terms of bringing the negatives and positives, things that are happening that you think are negative, you may highlight them and bring evidence to say, the child was this and this and this. This is what happened if you interpret that as negative. But in my marking, I'm not going to interpret that as negative because you are bringing the picture of what is happening out there where you are. If teachers, for example, if learners decided not to come to the class while you were teaching that lesson, You can describe that, tell us exactly what did you do, how then did you cover the syllabus under that circumstances. That is not bringing the negative, but we are bringing the bigger picture of what is happening, and then you are bringing the solution. In terms of critiquing your work, you need to have that frame of reference which you'll use. So we will critique your work according to what you critique. If you want to see something that you think is positive, but want us to see it as negative, you will have to create the frame of reference that will guide us to look at it as it is negative. That's what the assignment is expecting. It looked like Litemba. Before we continue to the example, Litemba, your hand is still up, or is the old one?
No, it was the old one, but say,
yeah,
I think I can hear you a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, let's take the example and see if you will be able to combine, you see, and see how this, but basically is that you need to give us a picture of what you have been doing or of what you did in a particular lesson. And then from there, the marking criteria is that I will be looking for some specific concepts that are shaping your teaching philosophy. Hey, this thing, I can't find this thing here. Please let me open it here. But I had this example here, but I don't know where it's gone now. It has just disappeared. Oh, there you go. All right. Let's see if this example will shed the light, and we take it from there. Here you go. I will just open it there. I'll close this first, and then go back there and take it from here.
Prof, while you
Yes.
are still looking at that,
Yeah.
can I just get this clear?
Okay.
To see if I understand very well.
Yeah.
So what you're actually saying that in the assignment, okay, firstly, we are including the background of the subject of which we are, is the specialization of for us and or any other subject that we want to focus on.
Yes.
And then after that, we then bring the actual teaching process and learning.
Exactly, yes.
Well, maybe meaning, for example, the introduction, bringing the introduction, maybe you're teaching natural sciences, maybe you're carrying a plant, teaching photosynthesis, you're actually bringing how did you articulate your introduction and everything, right?
Yes, you can give us a little bit background of what is life sciences.
Okay, natural sciences or life sciences.
What does CAPS say about life sciences?
Okay, okay, the actual curriculum of South Africa, yes.
And then from there, you then bring a lesson that you taught that you think was best for you, so that you can declare specific curriculum concept that made you to be the best for that day in teaching that particular subject. Then you discuss those issues, those concepts, how the concept were articulated in your classroom situation. Yes. Like for example, this one, look at this one.
Yes.
The subject is called CAT, Computer Application Technology. So a subject called Computer Application Technology was introduced in 2004. You see the background there. It's in 2004, blah, 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 blah. It has this and it has that. It has that, something like that. That's just a background. In CAPS, then this particular subject, when it comes to CAPS, it has these fixtures according to CAPS. And then when you continue now, because we have introduced your curriculum policy, which is CAPS. Then when you continue, then with this introduction of yours, that's where now you bring specific concept then that you use in order to make sure that the lesson is interesting and effective. So
for example, the examples that we used while we were writing teaching philosophy, like classroom management, professionalism, and then we link those concepts.
Look
to
at
the
them how
look
at them how they were positioned here. In this case, they were positioned to support what we call performance curriculum. So in writing here, they say, here are the concepts, because studies have been discussed, and then here are the concepts that help me to have the strength of the lesson. Here are they. These are the frame or the underpinning concept that will be discussed in demonstrating what I've done in this particular subject.
Well, just to help us, Prof, can we just maybe make an example, give us examples of maybe the actual concepts that someone or you can play around, maybe just to have an idea, clear understanding of what we're talking about.
Here are they. The first one is the resource. When I teach, I make sure that the resource.
What were the resources that were being used in the lesson?
Maybe it's overhead projector or books or whatever.
And how did that make you achieve the actual objectives of the lesson?
Yes, I'll discuss them down there when I go further, but here I'm declaring them in the introduction. So that the reader will become aware that no, I don't like resources. Any written work that has to do with resources, I don't like resources. You decide from the introduction not to read, you see. Yes.
Okay.
But the first thing that you have done, the background of your subject, and then you tell us about it in caps. How does it appear in caps? And then when you move down, you then move to say, what then have you discovered as the concept that underpin your teaching while your teaching is strong like this? So in this case, you have resources, teaching objectives, teaching content.
How do you drive your content? How do you
summative assessment? So in other words, here you tell us exactly what is the resource. That's your start. What is the resource? How then these resources are divided, and then how do you use them? And then what is your interpretation of resources? Do you like them or not? Then it's your interpretation. Okay, let's go to the resource, because down there is teaching resources that is there. Because you see they are declared here. When they are declared here, then your next move now, you need to take us to your class, to your understanding of these resources. Look at how then this concept of resources was discussed. A resource is defined as anything that helps in order to blah, 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 blah. That is Moletan and Christine, those authors there. But when you see another definition, if you go to Koza is defining it like this. So here is this. Then you have these inverted commas and the page number, because this code is taken directly from that source. But what does this mean? It's define the resource. What is a resource?
What is actually a resource?
Yeah. Because in other words, don't discuss something that you have not defined. Define it. And then if it is divided into categories, tell us about the categories. And then tell us about good practice about it. What must we look for if it is good practice? Because we are reading literature. And then after that, now, once you tell us about a good practice, that good practice that you are giving us is called frame of reference. So in this case, let's move down with this. It's define the resource first, and then
Yes.
the literature is categorizing resources into three, where we have machines, we have software, software, hardware as machine.
So those we can group them and say the types of resources.
Exactly. Those, yes. So that if someone is trying to say to you, no, but you did not include software in your discussion, then you simply say, I explained it. It's a software is the material that is used in conjunction with that tool. The hardware is the machine that you use in your teaching. Now, when you continue with your writing, after explaining it like that, you now need to focus to the one that you think worked best for you.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for instance, in this case here, you can see I focused on the ideological way.
You have not touched the content yet. You're still defining the
I'm just
resources that you
discussing
have used.
one concept,
Okay.
which is number one concept. Then, so I need to do justice into it because I have to define it. I have to categorize it. I have to indicate the layer or the part that worked for me. So in this case, what worked for me is the ideological way, is the thinking behind the hardware and the software, which is the ideological way in this case. It's coming there, yes. Then now, look at my next move then to conclude this discussion on resources. Because you see, I've defined the resource. You know what is it now, what it is now.
Yes.
And I've categorized it to know the categories. Then
and I actually know the actual resources.
Exactly, yes. Now I'm saying the next move that I need to give to you now is to interpret now what this discussion is saying to you, and then you take the tool that I'm giving to you and use it when you judge the use of resources anywhere. Let's judge it now. Let's go down there. Here is the frame now. What does this discussion suggest? This discussion suggests that curriculum implementers or enactors or teachers should first understand the ideological resource that underpin their intended curriculum before they go to teach. So in other words, when I go to your practice now, with this frame of reference, I'll ask you to say, did you have a theory that you used in order to teach at that particular time? What will happen if you say no? I'll say bad practice. But if you say yes, I had a theory, I used a constructivism learning theory by Vygotsky, then I'll say, thank you, you have done well. You see, that's how you critique. You critique with something that you have introduced, you've produced from a discussion. You have a discussion of that concept where you define it, you categorize it, and then you tell us what is working for you, because maybe not all the layers of resources are working. Like in this case, for me, hardware and software are not that much important, but what is important is the theory that drives them to do that job. That's why now I put that as a frame of reference here. So when you judge anything now that has to do with resources, you will judge according to this. Look at the next move then. From the interpretation, which is the frame of reference, I then move to check here in CAPS now to say, does CAPS have a specific theory? Then I discover that when I read that document, there was no specific theory which represented an ideological way. Therefore, what does this mean? It means CAPS may fail in South Africa because it does not have a specific theory. Teachers may end up using theories that are not relevant to that particular cat. Yes, but okay. I can't judge to say CAPS may fail if I don't have this green part where I declare that implementers must first identify a theory, which will then call upon certain hardware and software, and then they can start to teach.
Okay, Prof, can I ask maybe?
Yeah.
Is it really necessary to follow the moves that you have used as in right now? Because I see yours is a very advanced one. Because right now I'm having like a small imagination and the structure. Like for example, when we're talking about resources, okay, defining what a resource is and everything. And maybe someone can just say after that maybe, and just introducing one of the resources, maybe a projector, and then maybe going to an article and then quoting how projectors help learners, and then linking that to the assignment or to the actual concepts that one will be talking about. Is that maybe a wrong move or what?
No, that's a right move. That's a correct move, Litemba. But as long as you have this interpretation, you discuss them nicely, then you have this interpretation, which we call the frame of reference. So that I'll use that to mark your work under resources, for example.
Yes.
If you have indicated that using overhead projector is, the study suggests that one has to use overhead projector because it has this and this and this and this. Then now, then what I'll do, then taking this frame of reference of yours, I'll go to your practice where you start to say, because in the next move here, we are expecting to see you after critiquing CAPS, we wish to see you, what you have been doing. You see this person, since I started to teach, I've been combining this and this and this and this. And then I've been achieving 90% of this. Why now? This is good practice because this particular individual is bringing the theories, because CAPS does not have theories that need to be used. But this person has brought this, therefore this person has been doing well. But if this person will say, in this direct quote, I did not have a theory to think of when I was using overhead projector, then the practice was bad. So in your case, your example is good, where you are saying you will define the concept. After defining the concept, you can bring some layers or categories of it if there are categories. And then from there, then you tell us, what does this suggest? It suggests that in order for you to do well, you must do A, B, C, D. That's what we need as a frame of reference. Then you tell us, then in your class, then in my class, this is what I've done when I was teaching this subject. I took the overhead projector. Unfortunately for me, I did not have transparencies. I was writing on top of that projector, yet the studies are saying I should not write on it because I'm damaging it, which means I was not doing well. You see, you critique it well, you see. That's 100% what I'm looking for. So but that should happen, but that should happen in each of the concepts that we'll use.
All right. So they must go to the frame of reference. Exactly. You must have the frame of reference. Yes. Okay.
Even you see this, apply it in your life. Whenever you say you do something, you make sure that you have this information, discuss. Interpret it with your own frame now to say, this thing suggests
this suggests that.
Exactly, yes. It suggests this and this. And so that whenever we come to you, we know that you are going to say bad performance, because we don't have what you declare as a frame of reference. That's the frame of reference that one has to.
All right.
So in other words, then you can see then that this part, then yours may be just one paragraph or so. It doesn't mean it has to be long like that. This of mine, you see. And then you have the frame in green there. If you want to critique caps again, you can also critique caps following the red part there. And then what we are interested in seeing from your assignment is this part here, where you are telling us what we have done, and then we'll judge what we have done using the green part there that we have declared as the good performance or good practice.
I think, Prof, we can get a picture, and if we then get confused sometimes, and then we are going to contact you. Thank you very much.
We can keep on just discussing it where somewhere you think you are not doing it accordingly, but all what you do, just drop an email, and then, or you can even send it via discussion forum so that everyone may benefit.
So that everyone can hear.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
that everyone may benefit. Yes. So these are the debate, that discussion that we need in order to do it well, because this is 40% that we have to do it well. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay. And the last part here, when you move then to the next concept, because remember, we had resources, teaching resources, followed by objectives. Look at how I concluded that debate about the resources after I've seen that I was doing well. Then I started to say, okay, but they are prescribed objectives, because I'm introducing the next discussion. In the next discussion, I do the same. What are the objectives? What are they capable of doing?
You may be defining them, yes.
Exactly, yes.
And then again, you use the frame of reference again to the objectives.
Bring the frame of reference. Just bring few studies that talk about objectives.
Objectives.
And then, yes, and then you put the frame, interpret them to say, oh, these studies suggest that one has to identify these objectives before the class or after the class.
Which means,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. When you go to, then you go to your lesson that you taught to say, when did I identify them? Or I identified the objectives after I've taught, which means I missed the point. But you see, you are critiquing yourself. You are critiquing yourself like that. But critiquing with the frame that is produced by your literature after reading your literature.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I think then others have seen it that as well. So, any other question that we may clarify here? Because all what you do, that those that you have declared there, you must now start to bring them down here, discuss each one of them now, and then you conclude after. You have your list of references, then you are done with your. But it looked like if you have 4 concepts, you will have 4 sections where you'll be discussing it. And then if you have 5, which means you'll have 5 sections where you'll be discussing that. And then you close after that. Okay, I think then we may discuss via discussion forum as well if they are. And the group email also is working. You can reply to all in the email that I forwarded to all of you. You can reply to all. We take it from there. But your assignment will come to you today, your teaching philosophy, of which you have all done well accordingly, because all what I wanted to say is if you identify those concepts, you know how to write that academic writing. That was the main thing that I wanted to see. So I did see that that you have all done that in a way that it was complementing what you were doing. And then the other thing that I wish us to do here, oops, where is this now? I can see this now. Which one is this? Oh, is the old one, this one? We go back there. And then we go back to this quickly. What do we have here? We have this article, and then I share this with you quickly. Share this article quickly. There you go. Do we all see this article?
No, Prof.
Oh, it's not there. Okay, let me stop sharing then and go back to it again because it looked like it's me. Okay, there we go. It's like that. And then is that. Okay, so here's this article here that I ask you to read. So if you read this article, you'll see most of the concepts are explained under the diagram. There's a diagram here where it's talking about performance curriculum as a vertical reflection. And then it's talking about competence-based curriculum as horizontal horizontal approach in doing it. And now when you look at the concept there, you can see the concept that we've been discussing are discussed here. If you can see under that vertical approach, there are concepts here and they are discussed here. So that you can refer to them, to this article if you are stuck, you don't know where to define that particular concept. These concepts are defined here and also in other papers. But what is important here is this diagram here, where it says that you have this diagram like this, where it's talking about the vertical and the concepts that were identified in this paper to frame what we call performance curriculum. All these that are appearing here were identified in this chapter as those that are framing performance curriculum. But these that are identified in this side are those that are framing the competence-based curriculum. And those that are neutral are covered this side. That here are the neutral one that are bringing both the vertical and that. Because for instance, if you talk about aims are long-term goals. They may suggest that you are driving your lesson using outcomes or objectives. It doesn't matter. Aims cannot differentiate between that and that. And then again, your role, if your role is that of a researcher, it means you can be dealing with issues of performance curriculum as much as you deal with the issues of competence-based curriculum, because researchers bring both performance. They are in the neutral space where they bring both. And then when it comes to teaching, that side may be face-to-face, this side may be distance or something like that. But this side is talking about blended, that you must blend what you are doing, bring strength of competence and strength of performance, and marry those into one diagonal approach that you are using. So same concepts are appearing here as well. They are also appearing here, where you have the vertical with the concept like this and this like that and this like this. So which means if you read this chapter, you will see how these curriculum concepts that were identified for this chapter are articulated in this particular paper. So that will be towards the end of this presentation of our discussion. But please let me just share one thing which will help us to prepare for next week. In our next week, colleagues, next week's session, let us have this. Okay, there you go. Let us read this particular chapter, which I'll indicate here. Here is the chapter, from this book. This book is in your learning management module site. And also I will email it to you so that you can read chapter 7. Let's read chapter 7 in order to understand conception and interpretation of competence-based curriculum by teachers in South Africa. Please read this so that you will then present this particular chapter next week. So in other words, in our discussion, we may ask any one of you to just take us through what this chapter is saying about teachers in South Africa, because this is the research that was conducted when teachers were asked to implement or to enact competence-based curriculum, which was curriculum 2005. So what they've done then is discussed here. Read it thoroughly, read the chapter thoroughly, which is chapter 7, page 112. The book is called Pedagogy, Poverty of Pedagogy, something like that. But I will email it to you today so that you have time to read for our discussion next week. So are you still with me?
Yes.
Yes, Prof.
Okay, so
We are good.
Our next week, I will be expecting your presentation or your discussion on how teachers in South Africa understood this so-called competence-based curriculum when it was happening in 1998. So that will then move, in our move, then we'll move to CAPS so that we find out exactly how then do you interpret CAPS. So that's what our next move. Okay, okay, Eunice, you have your hand up.
Yes, Prof. I'm asking regarding what you're saying we should read about the teachers curriculum 2005. In terms of the presentation that we're supposed to do, are we supposed to have slides, or we're just going to talk it through without any slides?
No, you can just talk through when we discuss. So in other words, when we reflect, let's just have open reflection on it without necessarily projecting a slide, some slides.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Prof.
And I'm happy, colleagues, that you see, in terms of presentation, we're all good, but but others were scared. They were running away from presenting on the day. But when I then look at your presentation, wow, your presentation was you had your nice presentation and you recorded it well. So that's what I was expecting to happen.
That's pan, Prof.
Yeah.